Thank you. Hello. How's it going? You good? Social media can progress society in a way that nothing else can. If you take something like climate change, or social injustice, or political cohesion, I mean, it affects those things more than anything else. It has to be humankind's greatest ever invention for changing behaviors on a global level ever invented, right? And yet, when you think about how we're doing, what do you think? Is it helping us? Are we achieving those goals? My name is Karl Brown, and I'm the co-founder of Curve, a social network reimagined. But I actually started my career as an actor. I trained at the Guildhall School of Music and Drama, which has this wonderful reputation. In fact, 2,000 people applied the year that I got in, with only 25 being given places. But despite this kind of wonderful foundation, I knew probably within about a week that I did not want to be an actor. I became almost selfish. I was self-absorbed. I was almost narcissistic in my mindset to try and achieve my goals. And so I knew I had to get away from that and do something completely different. And so I made the very natural step of going from the stage to then working with the Metropolitan Police in gang prevention. Myself and this amazing team, we helped young people who were on the verge of joining gangs make better, more informed decisions with their life. Essentially, we helped 12-year-olds not carry knives. Now, this then led on to behavioral change consultancy work, in which I was working for a number of different organizations, and then from that, I then went into innovation. I suddenly found myself creating these massive training programs for these massive major corporates in which these programs are getting rolled out to hundreds or even thousands of employees at a time. But despite this kind of supposed success, at this point, again, I felt lost. Like I wasn't really doing anything of real value, of real worth, you know? Whilst that was happening, of course, social media was also going on its own sort of journey, right? We started with social networks in which we could connect with our friends and our families. And then this became social media, in which then secondary networks became available to us. We could reach out to hundreds, thousands, even millions of people at a time. And this, of course, then led to recommendation media, where we are today, where content is king and algorithms the dictators for what you do or do not see. But despite this almost natural evolution, the actual structure that these platforms sit on didn't change. Essentially, on every single platform, you do four things, right? One, you download an app. Two, you create an account. Three, you share content in search of likes and follows. And then four, you watch ads, personalized to you. That doesn't sound too bad, right? Sounds okay. Except when you then combine this with this kind of growth at all costs mentality. At that point, the effect on society is staggering. You could take one, for example, like there are countless numbers of fake accounts and bots, which is actually very dangerous for society, but brilliant when it comes to the vanity metrics of these platforms. You could take something like mis or disinformation, in which, again, this is destabilizing democracy, but is brilliant for hooking you into these platforms. You could take something like cyberbullying, which is genuinely leading to countless numbers of teenage suicides. But my gosh, what brilliant engagement metrics they bring. And then, of course, you have something like polarization. This is quite literally dividing entire nations. But wow, isn't it good for keeping you hooked on these platforms? Indeed, Generation Z are now addicted to these platforms, 2.5 hours a day on average, a number that rises to 3, 4, 5 hours per day. And we know that these platforms are actually bad for your own mental health. I mean, when you actually think about this for just one moment, it's insane. It's scary. And yet, I'm willing to bet that nearly every single person in this room has been on social media at some point today. We are all complicit. Now, it was kind of through this realization, I suppose, of this mammoth problem, combined with the birth of my own children, and also this genuine desire, I suppose, to do something of real meaning with the skills that I had learned over the last few years, that myself and my co-founder, Nick, wanted to take on this mission. Social media. How do we reimagine that model to be actually good for society, good for ourselves, good even for the environment in which we live? Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Where do you even start? Right? I mean, this kind of mammoth idea like sounds great on paper. Yeah, just reimagine social media. Especially, actually, when you think about it, like the situation right now, right? We've got these kind of major social Goliaths that monopolize the entire industry. I mean, how are you even going to make a dent, let alone disrupt that market? Well, let me give you the journey so far. Curve initially was nothing to do with social media. It was actually a personal development app in which you would choose your curve, your learning curve for the day, right? You would choose something that would boost your confidence, or boost your communication skills, or boost your productivity levels, or help you with your mindset, whatever it might be, right? It was an action for the day. Now, what was interesting, as soon as we sort of landed with this project, is we learned very quickly, people are kind of interested in personal development, like the idea of it at least, but actually people were far more fascinated by how they can take action for the things they care about, like what's my role in my local community, or maybe even more societally, like what actions can I take to support something like Black Lives Matter, for example, or indeed the environment. What actions can I take that actually align with my values in that space? And then we thought, okay, brilliant, this is exciting, right? Okay, we'll go and talk to the authors, the activists, the speakers in those spaces, and convert their ideas into actions. But then, again, we learned very quickly, well, hold on, they already have a platform. It's called social media. But then noticing, well, they're stuck in the same system as the rest of us. They're all busy chasing likes, chasing follows, instead of driving what they want to achieve, which is direct action. It's raising awareness to people outside of their circles about the topics they care about. Now, hold on. Now, there lies a problem that needs to be solved. And so that became our fascination. We essentially dropped this initial concept and moved forward with this new idea, the world's first movement-driven social network, a platform built for change makers at a time when we need them most. Now, what was actually quite cool about this point in the journey is that suddenly people were like, oh, that's kind of cool. Tell me more. I want to learn. I want to hear about this. And so getting those calls was really much easier. And then, of course, off the back of that, people showed real passion, right? We jump on a call, be like, okay, cool, I've got this cool idea. Literally, I'm talking about like sketches in a notepad, like a cool, funky pitch deck kind of vibe. And they would be like, that's cool, I like where you're going there, but what about this? Or what about that? Or actually, the thing that I hate about social media is this. Or this is the problem that I wish would get solved. And it was through those conversations, of which we ended up having over 100 different conversations, that we then iterated and designed and developed something that was genuinely different. Now, when I say developed, we didn't start even that process until we'd gone 6 months of those kind of conversations. And then when we did start developing, we did it quickly, agilely. Within 3 months, we released the MVP, the minimum viable product. And we only gave 100 people access to this platform. Straight away, again, we work agilely. Every 2 to 3 weeks, new update lands, new update lands. We're constantly having conversations with them. In fact, the general week would look a little like this. We would have like a feedback call with one or a few of the change makers on the platform. They would then be sharing these ideas. That would then convert into designs that afternoon. The following morning, we start developing it, and that week, it then lands on the platform. That's the kind of pace that we were rolling at. We do that for 6 months before we soft launch, in that we go from the 100, and then we allow more people onto the platform, and then more people again. And at this point, we're still learning, constantly having conversations with them that matter, the actual members of our community, building around them, their thoughts, their ideas, their needs. The result of that, I would suggest, is, and I can say this quite honestly, a real reimagining of how social media needs to be for society, for ourselves, and also with the greater context of the environment in mind. So, what did we create? Well, the key difference between Curve and basically everything else is that you don't follow people, you join movements. You don't chase likes, you take action. We've created a system which means it isn't about you, but much more so about what you care about. We have shared grids in which the movements themselves take center stage, not the individuals. We have content challenges which enable you to participate, to get involved in the things that you care about in a really easy and open style. We have sources which allow you to back up your stats, facts, and claims, or request them if they haven't been added. And we have a system which allows for communication to be center, right? 90% of reactions on this platform convert into direct communication, conversation. But when we take a step back, right, think more holistically, the revenue model is so important to these things, right? We're building an alignment model in which movement builders and brands that align in values can come together. This means that actually movement builders can just do their thing, right? Support what you do, build a community around what you do. Don't sell ads. And then, of course, from a brand's perspective, don't sell ads. Don't put ads on a feed. What's that really going to do for you? Instead, genuinely collaborate with the movements that align with you and what you stand for. And of course, when you then think about that, the influencer model itself is then revolutionized. We've removed likes, we've removed followers. Instead, it becomes about collaboration. It becomes about participation. You change the game. And then, of course, lastly, the anti-echo chamber effect is something that I feel is so, so important to society at large. We cannot continue just staying in our own echo chambers. Therefore, we have created a feed that is purposefully, proactively diversified. How can you be aware of the things that are different from your current bubble? And in doing so, increase empathy and understanding, to have a better shared language, I suppose, of the way the community, but also the world functions and works. Now, I want to go back to the beginning. Social media plays perhaps the most important role in progressing society at scale on nearly every level. You have climate justice to fight, social inequality. You have political cohesion. And yet, when we look at the current platforms, do they really enable us to progress in those areas? For me, the answer is an absolute no. And I ask you the question, do we continue with the status quo, but within the depths of, say, the metaverse? Or do we demand a radical departure from where we are today for something that actually supports society over stakeholders? This, for me, is a moment, and we absolutely have to take it. Thank you.
Well done.